Since I just concluded, and you may agree, that it is not the quantity or volume, there is but one place left to go. Not quantity of exercise, but what? The quality or the intensity of the exercise. Let's assume hypothetically that, again hypothetically, that any one of you here could curl a 100-pound barbell for a maximum of 10 reps to failure. And by that I mean you couldn't possibly do 11 reps. The 10th rep itself requires a maximum effort where you're gritting your teeth, you're shaking all over, and you barely get the bar to the top. Obviously, the first rep of that set would be the easiest. Who would deny that? The first rep would be the easiest, or we would say more technically precise, the first rep would require the least intensity of effort. That first rep does fatigue you a little bit, however, even if only slightly. That's why the second rep is always harder. Whereas the first rep may require literally on the order of 8 or 10 or 12% intensity of effort, the second rep, you see, may require 15 or 20% intensity of effort. The second rep fatigues you even further, of course, and the third rep is harder still, requiring a more intense effort than did the second. Now, I'm not going to belabor this. You know that's how it goes with each successive rep. Each rep is harder than the last. Each successive rep requires a more intense effort. The key concept is intense. Until finally we get to the last possible rep in this hypothetical situation, the 10th rep to failure, again where you're trying as hard as you can. That would be the only rep where we say it requires literally 100% intensity of effort. My question to you is this. Which rep of that set obviously would be the most, I shouldn't use the word obviously because it sounds like I'm leading you here. Which rep of that set would be the most productive in terms of stimulating an optimal size and strength increase? The first rep, which is the easiest and least intense, or the last rep, the hardest one? The only rep requiring 100% intensity of effort. The last rep. Now, I've had some people in the past say the first rep. That was either because they were anxious or they didn't have normal, intact, functioning brains. And that's okay, because some people aren't born with normal, intact, functioning brains. Yes, of course, the last rep would be the most productive, not the first rep. In fact, if you could curl, again, hypothetically, 100 pounds for 10 reps. Now, you would never do this, but hypothetically, for some weird, strange reason, you only ever just did the first rep, then you put the bar back down on the floor, never attempting a second, third, fourth, fifth rep. Would you ever grow? No. It's too easy. There's not enough intensity of effort. The intensity, to be more specific, the intensity of the stress on the first rep of a set of 10 is not sufficiently threatening to your body to warrant an adaptive response. That is a strength and size buildup. Just like you couldn't get a suntan sitting in front of a 100-watt light bulb. I don't care how long you sat there or how much phosphogene suntan lotion you rubbed all over your belly button. That 100-watt light bulb is not intense enough. The intensity of the stress doesn't threaten your skin sufficiently to warrant an adaptive response. Not a muscle buildup, but a suntan buildup. You see, audience, most people think of developing a suntan or developing larger muscles as something merely cosmetic. And by cosmetic, I mean to improve your appearance. But of course, nature couldn't care less if you were a blonde Adonis on the beach with a 22-inch arm. The development of a suntan, just like the development of larger muscles, both of those things represent literally defensive barriers the body builds to protect itself from future assaults of high-intensity stress, whether high-intensity ultraviolet sunlight stress or high-intensity anaerobic exercise stress. Executing that last, almost impossible rep causes the body to dip into its reserve capacity or ability. And since your body obviously only has a very limited reserve ability, the body protects itself from future assaults on its reserves by enlarging upon its existing ability through the compensatory buildup of more muscle mass. That's probably the most intelligent statement in my whole seminar today. It's very abstract. So this is not a put down. Is there anybody here who'd like me to restate that? I understand. The first time I read that, I had no clue what the hell that meant. But after I understood it, I got so excited you couldn't peel me off the ceiling for 2 days. Listen very carefully. I'll repeat it a third time if required. Executing that last, almost impossible rep causes the body to dip into its reserve ability. Not the first rep, it's too easy. Now, since the body only has a small amount of this reserve to draw upon, since it only has a small amount of this reserve ability to draw upon before depletion occurs, the body protects itself from future assaults on its reserves by enlarging upon its existing ability through the compensatory buildup of more muscle mass. That one statement encapsulates the entire science of bodybuilding exercise, but it's very difficult to grasp on first hearing. That doesn't mean you're stupid, that just means you're not godlike. When you first sat down that first day in kindergarten, did you fully understand the ABCs? I didn't. I was kind of slow. It took me weeks. But now look, you fully understand it. You've integrated the ABCs into words, words into sentences, sentences into paragraphs, paragraphs into books. Work with that concept. There were a few people who got excited properly by that. Think about that later on and you'll fully understand the actual science of exercise. Only high-intensity exercise can force the body to resort to this reserve ability once again sufficiently to stimulate an adaptive response in the form of a muscle mass increase. Repeating tasks that are well within your existing capacity do nothing to stimulate growth. If you can curl 100 pounds for 10 reps and all you ever try is 10, your body has no reason to grow. You have to attempt tasks that are beyond your existing capacity. That's what stimulates growth. And of course, how does the bodybuilding orthodoxy and exercise science have you train? Not to failure. Oh no, there's something apocalyptic, frightening, dire. Don't train to failure. You might grow a third eyeball or hair on your tongue. Don't train to failure. It's dangerous. Well, Brian Johnston and I and a bunch of at least tens of thousands of others in the world have been training to failure for 20 years. It never bothered me. There's nothing wrong with training to failure. You have to train to failure to stimulate a strength and size increase. Again, this is the point. Repeating tasks, T-A-S-K-S, repeating tasks that are well within your existing capacity do nothing to stimulate growth because you can already do it. Your body already has the capacity to curl 100 pounds for 10 reps. It's only when you try that impossible 11th rep that you stress the existing capacity, you stress or endanger the existing reserve, and the body seeks to protect the reserve by enlarging upon its existing capacity so that no longer will that 11th rep seem like a threat. Did you follow that? Okay, thank you. I could leave right now. I feel fulfilled.